Revenge with Anjo.
Elara Morgan was 31 when she finally believed her life had reached calm waters. A year earlier, she had been the kind of woman who preferred quiet mornings, a cup of tea, and the soft hum of radio chatter over noise or attention. She didn't crave extravagance. All she ever wanted was peace, a steady home, and a place that felt like hers. She and her husband, Elias, had just bought a modest semi-detached house on the outskirts of Bath, with white shutters and a small back garden where they planned to grow lavender and lemon balm. It cost £420,000, their biggest purchase yet, paid for through sheer determination and savings. Elias worked as a civil engineer, precise and dependable, while Elara ran a small event planning business from home. They weren't rich, but they were steady. And that stability meant everything now that she was 36 weeks pregnant. Elara's days had become slower but sweeter. Her ankles swelled, her back ached, but beneath the discomfort was joy. "We're so close," she'd whisper, running her palm over her growing belly. Elias would smile, resting his hand over hers. "He's going to have your calm and my stubbornness." She'd laugh softly. For Elara, being with Elias was safety, the kind she'd never known as a child. Her upbringing had been polished on the outside, but hollow within. Her mother, Clara Whitmore, was elegant and distant, the type who wore silk scarves to the corner shop. Her father, Richard, was an accountant obsessed with order and image. Her younger sister, Isla, 6 years her junior, had always been the family favorite, praised for every minor success, while Elara was tolerated like background noise. When Elara graduated from university, her parents barely mentioned it. When she started her business, her mother asked, "Why not a proper job in an office?" Even when Elara announced her pregnancy, Clara only arched a brow. "Are you sure you can manage a child? You've never been practical." Elara learned to smile and swallow the sting. Pretending became her shield, pretending she didn't care when Isla's art was framed in their hallway, pretending birthdays forgotten didn't matter, pretending her mother's coldness didn't burn. But deep down, she still carried a quiet hope that one day, they'd finally see her. That hope was why she didn't throw away the glossy envelope that arrived one Friday afternoon. She stood in her kitchen, tracing her name printed in gold on the envelope. It was an invitation, Isla and James's second wedding anniversary. The event was set to be a night of elegance and celebration at the Ravenscroft Manor Hotel, a luxury countryside venue famed for its grand gardens and marble terraces. Elara hesitated. Every part of her wanted to decline. Yet another part, the old, bruised child within her, whispered, "Maybe this time they'll treat you differently." Elias walked in, saw the envelope in her hand, and rested a gentle palm on her back. "Do you want to go?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then nodded. "I think I need to." Elias studied her face carefully. "If it feels wrong, we leave. No explanations." Elara smiled faintly. "Deal." She had no idea that the next time she saw her family, she would be bleeding on marble tiles beside a swimming pool, her unborn child fighting for life, while those who should have protected her stood frozen. Betrayal doesn't always arrive shouting. Sometimes, it wears pearls and perfume. The official invitation arrived 2 days later, thick ivory card, gold foil trim, embossed monogram. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the second wedding anniversary of Isla and James Atwood. Saturday, 6:30 p.m. sharp. Ravenscroft Manor Hotel." Formal attire. Elara sat on the sofa, 8 months pregnant, holding it as though it carried weight far beyond paper. "Show up. Smile. Stay quiet," she muttered. Elias glanced up from folding laundry. "We're really doing this?" She nodded. "One more try. I don't want to regret not going." He crossed the room and kissed her forehead. "All right. But the second it feels off, we walk." On the evening of the event, Elara dressed carefully. She wore a soft sage-green maternity gown that flowed gently around her bump. Her hair was swept into a loose braid, and around her neck hung a small silver pendant, a gift from Elias when they bought their house. "You look beautiful," he said as they stood by the mirror. "You're just saying that," she laughed, adjusting her dress. "I never say what I don't mean." They drove into the fading sunset, 30 minutes through winding country roads. The golden hour made everything look softer, almost forgiving. When they arrived, Ravenscroft Manor gleamed under strings of fairy lights. Guests in tuxedos and sequin dresses gathered near the outdoor pool, champagne glasses in hand. A string quartet played near the terrace. Elias helped Elara out of the car, steadying her hand. At the check-in table, a young woman with a clipboard barely looked up. "Name?" "Elara and Elias Morgan," she replied politely. The woman flipped through her list and handed over a small card. "Table 18. "That way," she said flatly, pointing towards a far corner of the lawn. Elara and Elias followed the path, passing perfectly arranged tables adorned with roses and candles. When they reached theirs, she noticed immediately: no candles, no roses, no satin. Just a plain white cloth and a wilting plant. Their view of the stage was blocked by a support pillar. She exhaled softly. "They tucked us away on purpose." Elias frowned. "Still doesn't make it right." She forced a smile. "I expected it." He leaned closer and kissed her cheek. "You deserve better." She whispered to her baby, "It's just a few hours, little one. Then we're free." And then she saw them. Her parents. Clara stood near the stage, graceful as ever in a champagne-colored gown, her smile sharp as glass. Beside her, Richard scanned the crowd with quiet disapproval. And there, Isla, glowing, adored, radiant in a glittering gold dress, surrounded by guests who laughed too loudly at her jokes. Not once did she glance in Elara's direction. Elara's stomach tightened. "Nothing's changed," she murmured. Elias reached for her hand. "You're here for you, not for them." She nodded, but her chest ached anyway. The evening dragged on. Every toast, every laugh, every passing glance reminded Elara how invisible she still was. When Elias offered to fetch her a drink, she nodded. "Just water, please." He kissed her hand and walked off. Alone, she ran her fingers across her bump, whispering, "We'll go soon." But peace never lasted around her family. The click of heels on the stone patio made her look up. Clara stood there, smile tight, eyes sharp. "You look tired," she said coolly. "Couldn't find anything more elegant?" Elara blinked. "I'm 8 months pregnant, Mum. This is what fits." Richard joined in, voice clipped. "Well, it's Isla's night. We all have to make sacrifices." "What's that supposed to mean?" Elara asked quietly. Clara's tone turned smooth and transactional. "We're a bit over budget. Florals, catering, the usual things. It would mean a lot if you contributed, say, £8,000. Elara froze. "You're asking me for money? Tonight?" Clara frowned. "You've got a house. You can manage." Richard added, "It's the least you can do." Elara's jaw tightened. "No one told me about this." "You're being selfish again," Clara snapped. "It's about family support." "Support?" Elara repeated, her voice trembling. "You've ignored me since I arrived." "Watch your tone," Richard warned. "I'm not giving you £8,000, she said. Firmly. "Not now, not ever." Richard's palms struck the table. "Then why are you even here?" Elara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because I thought maybe, this time, you'd treat me like your daughter." Clara scoffed. "You've embarrassed us enough, turning up looking swollen." "I'm carrying your grandson," Elara said softly. Guests began glancing over. And then Isla appeared, glittering and smug. "What's all this?" she asked. "Honestly, Elara, can't you do one thing without drama?" Elara turned to her slowly. "Drama?" Isla smirked. "You always make it about you. If you can't contribute, just leave." "I'm not being bullied into." Elara started, but Isla stepped closer, jabbing a manicured finger towards her bump. "You've been milking that pregnancy since day one. Nobody cares." Before Elara could react, Isla shoved her. Not hard, but enough to make her stagger. Richard waved dismissively. "Let her go. She's made her choice." Clara turned away. In that instant, Elara understood. They didn't just want her quiet. They wanted her erased. Her pulse quickened. She placed both hands protectively over her belly. Her baby shifted, sensing her fear. The world felt smaller, the laughter around her fading into distant echoes. She was utterly alone among people who shared her blood. Then Elias returned, holding a glass of water and a small plate of fruit. "Elara, what's happened?" he asked urgently. She forced a smile. Just the usual welcome. Elias's eyes scanned the scene, the cold stares, the tension, Elara's trembling hands. "We're leaving," he said quietly but firmly. Before they could move, Clara stormed back toward them, her heels striking the marble. "How dare you humiliate me in front of everyone?" she hissed. "I didn't humiliate you," Elara replied calmly. "I just said no." Clara's face flushed with fury. "You always think you're better than us. Maybe that husband of yours filled your head with nonsense." "Mum, stop," Elara warned, her voice shaking. "No, you stop," Clara snapped. "You will not walk out like some martyr." Elara turned away, trying to end the conversation, but Isla appeared again, glass of wine in hand, her tone dripping with disdain. "Still pretending you're the victim, aren't you?" she said mockingly. Elias stepped forward. "Enough." Isla ignored him. "You've been parading that belly like it's an achievement. Everyone's tired of it." "Isla," Elara said, steady but exhausted. "Please, just leave me alone." Isla smirked and leaned closer. "Oh, what are you going to do? Cry?" Then she shoved Elara, harder this time. Elara stumbled backward. The crowd gasped. Her heels caught the edge of the stone patio. She managed to grab the table for balance, but Clara's hand suddenly shot out, pushing her chest. It happened in a blur, a splash, a scream, the world tilting into icy chaos. Elara plunged into the swimming pool. The shock of the cold seized her breath. The weight of her dress dragged her down. She flailed, disoriented, her lungs burning. Then pain, sharp, tearing pain across her abdomen. Above her, shouts filled the air. Someone screamed her name. And then, through the blur of bubbles and panic, arms wrapped around her, strong, familiar, desperate. Elias. He pulled her to the surface, gasping, eyes wild. "Elara, stay with me." She coughed, choking on water, trembling violently. He hauled her out, collapsing onto the marble tiles. "Call an ambulance," he shouted. "She's pregnant. 8 months." People rushed around them. Elara groaned, clutching her belly. "Eli," she whispered. And then came the warm gush of water beneath her. Her water had broken. Elias froze for a heartbeat before snapping into motion. He ripped off his soaked jacket and covered her trembling body. "It's all right, love, you're okay," he whispered, voice cracking. He called 999, his voice urgent. "My wife's 8 months pregnant. She was pushed into a pool. Her water's broken. Please hurry." Elara's body convulsed with contractions. Her tears mixed with the pool water on her cheeks.
"Hold on," he begged.
"You're strong. You're both strong." Guests hovered, horrified. Some whispered. Others filmed. But no one dared to touch her. Within minutes, flashing blue lights painted the hotel walls. Paramedics rushed through the crowd. "Step back, please," shouted a police officer. "Make space." Officer James Reeve, tall, composed, knelt beside Elias. "What happened?" Elias pointed directly at Clara. "That woman. She pushed her." Clara's face drained of color. "It was an accident." "No, it wasn't," someone shouted. "We saw everything." Another voice chimed in. "There's CCTV footage. The whole pool area's covered." Officer Reeve nodded to a colleague. "Secure that footage.
Now."
As paramedics lifted Elara onto a stretcher, Elias stayed beside her, gripping her hand. "I'm right here," he whispered. Elara could barely speak through the pain. "Don't let them twist it," she murmured. He squeezed her fingers. "Never." Officer Reeve turned to Clara, Richard, and Isla. "You're being detained for questioning on suspicion of assault and endangerment of an unborn child." Richard protested. "We're her family. Reeves' expression hardened. Exactly. The crowd watched as the trio were led away, handcuffed beneath the glittering lights that had once promised celebration. The ambulance sped through the night, sirens wailing across the quiet countryside. Elara lay on a stretcher, drenched, trembling. A paramedic monitored her vitals while another checked the baby's heartbeat. "She's 36 weeks, the medic reported. Contractions 2 minutes apart. Prepare for early labor." Elias sat beside her, soaked through, holding her hand like it was the only thing tethering him to sanity. "You're doing amazing," he whispered. "He's going to be all right." Elara nodded weakly, her lips pale. "He has to be." When the ambulance reached St. Haverly's Hospital, nurses rushed them inside under bright fluorescent lights. "Let's get her dry and stable," someone called. Monitors beeped, voices blurred. Then a familiar voice cut through the noise. "Elara, it's Dr. Harris. I'm here." Relief washed through her. "The baby's heart rate is strong," Dr. Harris assured. "We'll take this carefully, all right?" Elara nodded faintly. Elias leaned close, whispering, "You're safe. You're not alone." Time lost meaning after that. There was only pain, breath, and willpower. Contractions tore through her like waves. Nurses shouted encouragement, Dr. Harris's calm voice steady through it all. "He's crowning, Elara. One more push." Elara screamed, sobbing, gripping Elias's hand. And then a sound that changed everything.
A cry.
Small, fierce, alive. The room froze in awe. "It's a boy," Dr. Harris said softly. At 2:19 a.m., under harsh white lights, Elara's son entered the world, breathing, fighting, perfect. They laid him on her chest. She cried and whispered, "We made it." Elias pressed his forehead to hers. "You both did." They named him Noah Elias Morgan, meaning rest and strength. For the first time, Elara felt both. The next days passed in a blur of healing and gratitude. Nurses called her Mum, brought her warm blankets, and spoke to her with kindness that made her tear up. Elias barely left her side, sleeping in a hospital chair with Noah, curled on his chest. Every time she looked at them, she felt something she'd never known before, peace that didn't demand silence. 2 days after discharge, Elara walked, still sore but resolute, into the office of Solicitor Benjamin Clark in Central Bath. She held Noah in her arms, Elias beside her. Benjamin stood, already expecting them. "I've reviewed everything," he said, tapping his laptop. "The CCTV footage is crystal clear. Multiple witnesses confirm your account. We'll press charges for assault and reckless endangerment of a pregnant woman." Elara's jaw tightened. "Include Isla too." She started it. Benjamin nodded. "We'll add complicity and verbal provocation. This is an airtight case." "I don't care about money," Elara said firmly. "I care about accountability." Benjamin met her gaze. "Then you'll have it. But they'll try to play the family card, claim it was a misunderstanding." Elara's eyes hardened. "Then I'll show up in court with my baby in my arms." Elias smiled faintly at her strength. Benjamin's tone softened. "You've survived something unimaginable. You deserve justice." She nodded. "Not just for me. For him." She looked down at Noah, sleeping peacefully against her chest. The trial began 3 weeks later at Somerset Crown Court. The air was thick with tension. Clara, Richard, and Isla sat at the defense table, dressed in muted grays, their faces carefully composed. Clara even wore her pearls, as if trying to reclaim dignity through decorum. Their barrister spoke of family misunderstandings and emotional distress. He claimed Elara had slipped in panic. But then the prosecution played the video.
The push. The fall.
The water. The screams. The silence that followed. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Then witnesses took the stand, hotel staff, guests, even the event planner. "I saw her get pushed," one testified. "She begged them to stop. They mocked her," another added. Isla laughed. The final witness was James, Isla's husband, who had since filed for divorce. He submitted a written statement that silenced the room, I can't stay married to someone who laughed while her pregnant sister nearly drowned. Isla broke down in tears. Clara's face turned to stone. When Elara took the stand, the room fell silent. Her voice was steady, but carried years of unspoken pain. I'm not just here because of one night, she said. I'm here because of a lifetime of being made to feel invisible until their cruelty nearly cost my child his life. Her words hung heavy in the air. Even the judge looked moved. Elias sat in the gallery, holding Noah. The baby stirred softly, as if sensing the weight of it all. When the verdict came, the room held its breath. The judge's tone was measured, resolute. This court finds Clara Whitmore, Richard Whitmore, and Isla Atwood guilty of all charges. A murmur spread. Clara received 7 years in prison, Richard 5, and Isla 4 for incitement and reckless harm. Clara screamed as the officers approached. Isla sobbed. Richard stared ahead, hollow. Elara didn't react. She simply held her baby tighter, her tears silent and clean. Justice at last had a voice. A year passed. 12 months since that night of cold water and flashing lights. Elara stood on the back porch of her new cottage in Wiltshire, a mug of tea warming her hands. The air smelled of rain and rosemary. Inside, Noah was babbling on the rug, trying to chase a wooden car. Elias was in the kitchen making breakfast, humming softly. Their new home wasn't grand, but it was alive. Creaky floors, wildflowers along the fence, and laughter that filled every corner. They had built new rituals: Friday night takeaways, Saturday morning walks, Sunday pancakes. Elias had rearranged his work schedule to spend more time at home. Elara had returned to her event planning with renewed confidence, choosing clients who valued her worth. Some nights were hard, nights when echoes of her mother's voice crept in, or when she dreamt of falling again. But then she'd feel Noah's tiny hand on her face, or Elias's arm pull her close, and everything would soften. On Noah's first birthday, they built a small bonfire in the garden. The three of them sat wrapped in blankets under a silver sky, roasting marshmallows as sparks danced in the wind. Elara looked at the flames and whispered, "They broke me once." Elias turned to her, smiling gently. "And you rebuilt stronger." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "This is our beginning." No more begging to be seen. No more silence mistaken for peace. She was no longer the forgotten daughter. She was Elara Morgan, survivor, mother, and builder of her own light.